Welcome back to the channel. Today's story dives deep into betrayal, heartbreak, and the unyielding strength it takes to rise from the ashes. Imagine sitting across from the person you trusted most, only to have a stranger snatch them away right before your eyes. What would you do? Stay calm, fight back, or let everything crumble? This is the story of Magnus, Layla, and Ethan, a tale of deception, revenge, and ultimately renewal. Stick around till the end. You won't want to miss how this all unfolds. I couldn't believe my eyes when the arrogant man strode confidently up to our table, completely uninvited. Without a flicker of hesitation, he reached across and grabbed my wife's hand. With a mocking sneer, he said, "Why waste your time with that weak excuse for a man? Come dance with me first, then I'll show you what a real man can do." The restaurant was one of those upscale places where every detail screams luxury without shouting. Dimmed amber lighting pooled softly over the polished walnut tables, and gentle piano melodies floated through the air. It was the kind of place where power lunches happened and deals were quietly sealed. A world I used to thrive in, but tonight it felt like a gilded cage. Across from me sat my wife, Layla. Her beauty was undeniable, her raven black hair perfectly styled, her crimson lips matching the sleek gown hugging her figure. Yet behind that elegance, her eyes held something colder than the winter night outside, a hollow distance that couldn't be ignored. We had been married for 8 years, but over the past half-year, an invisible rift had grown between us. Late nights at the firm, secretive glances at her phone, unexplained absences. I had hoped tonight might help us bridge that gap. Instead, I felt more like a bystander watching the woman I loved drift farther away with every sip of wine. Suddenly, a shadow darkened our table. I looked up to see a man in his early 30s, tall, broad-shouldered, and radiating arrogant confidence. His custom-tailored navy suit fit him impeccably, but it couldn't hide the smugness in his icy blue eyes. His gaze locked straight onto Layla, as if I were invisible. "Layla," he said smoothly, his voice oozing charm mixed with disdain. "I didn't expect to see you here tonight." She froze, her wine glass suspended mid-air, eyes flicking nervously between him and me. Finally she stammered, "Ethan, what are you doing here?" "I'm enjoying the city," he replied with a grin that made my blood boil. Without waiting for permission, he reached out and took her hand. "Why stay with him?" he said with cruel contempt. "Dance with me first, and I'll show you what you've been missing." The entire restaurant seemed to fall silent. I could feel every curious eye fixed on us. Layla struggled to pull her hand away, but Ethan's grip was ironclad. My fury ignited like a wildfire. Slowly I stood, my chair scraping against the floor, sending a sharp echo through the tense air. "You have 3 seconds to let go of her hand," I said, voice calm but edged with steel. Ethan turned to face me, sneering. "And if I don't?" What happened next was swift and brutal. The sickening crunch of bones snapping echoed sharply as I delivered a practiced strike. Ethan collapsed to the floor, clutching his shattered hand, groaning in pain. Gasps erupted around the room. Layla's face was a mask of shock and fear, while the other diners sat frozen, unable to believe what had just happened. "Magnus," she whispered, her voice trembling as she gripped my arm. "What are you doing?" I ignored her and crouched to meet Ethan's pained, furious glare. My voice dropped to a cold whisper only he could hear. "This is only the beginning," I said without a hint of sympathy. "You made a mistake tonight, and I'll make sure you regret it." He spat venomously. "You'll pay for this." Turning to the others still seated, I said sharply, "Let him go." Layla hesitated, her wide eyes darting between me and the man groaning on the floor. When I snapped again, her resistance crumbled. She rose slowly, her heels clicking sharply as she followed me out. Behind us, murmurs rippled through the restaurant, growing into a low buzz of whispered speculation. The drive home was suffocating. Silence hung heavy between us like a thick fog. Layla sat rigid, hands tightly clasped in her lap, her mind racing to explain away the evening's chaos. When we pulled into the garage, I cut the engine and faced her directly. "Talk." My voice was cold and sharp. She flinched, composure cracking for the first time. "Magnus, I don't know what you want me to say," she whispered, eyes fixed on her trembling hands. "I want the truth," I demanded, leaning closer. "Who is he? How long has this been going on?" Tears welled up in her eyes, but I felt nothing anymore. Her betrayal had drained my sympathy long ago. "It's complicated," she began, but I cut her off with a bitter laugh. "Confused. Let me simplify. Either you tell me everything now or I find out myself. And trust me, you won't like how that ends." Her shoulders sagged, the fight gone. 6 months, she admitted quietly. "It started 6 months ago." The confession hit harder than I expected. Despite my suspicions, I forced a steady breath. "What was tonight supposed to be?" I asked quietly, voice steady but cold. Her voice broke as she cried. "A chance to humiliate me. To rub it in your face. I didn't know he'd be there, Magnus. I swear." "Stop," I interrupted sharply. "I saw how you looked at him, how you froze when he spoke. You knew." She covered her face, sobs filling the confined space of the car. I stared ahead, mind racing. I needed answers and a plan. The next morning I sat in my office, the city skyline sprawling beneath me. Anger burned cold in my chest, fueling determination. If Layla and Ethan thought they could walk away scot-free, they were in for a rude awakening. I started with Ethan. A quick online search exposed his carefully curated image. Luxury cars, private jets, designer suits. But beneath the glossy surface, cracks appeared. Failed businesses, lawsuits, rumors of shady deals. He wasn't untouchable. I reached out to trusted contacts in finance, people who owed me favors and thrived on exposing fraud. Within hours, I had a damning report on Ethan's finances. Suspicious bank records and reckless investments that revealed a man living beyond his means. Enough to ruin him. Next, I turned my attention to Layla, who pretended life was normal. Quietly, I gathered proof of her affair. Emails, texts, photos of them together, and stored everything in a secure digital vault. It wasn't just revenge. It was leverage. If she fought me in the divorce, I wouldn't hesitate to use it. Finally, I ensured their downfall would play out in public. I arranged for Ethan to be invited to an elite charity gala attended by the city's most influential figures. Simultaneously, I passed the dossier on Ethan's crimes to a journalist known for scandal. By the night's end, Ethan's financial misdeeds and manipulations were splashed across every major Swiss newspaper. Layla faced her reckoning when I handed her the divorce papers. She tried to protest, but the evidence was undeniable. Our prenuptial agreement meant she left with nothing, and the court of public opinion sealed her social exile. The headline screamed, "High Society Scandal. Ethan Keller exposed for fraud and exploitation." Every dirty secret laid bare. Financial crimes, extortion, systematic abuse of wealthy women. Ethan's pristine image shattered. He vanished from the public eye, authorities freezing his accounts and seizing assets. Former allies abandoned him, eager to distance themselves from the fallout. Layla fared no better. High society whispered behind closed doors. Friends disappeared. Invitations stopped arriving. Her family, embarrassed by the scandal, turned their backs, leaving her alone with the consequences. When we met in court for the final divorce hearing, she was a shadow of the woman I'd married. Tired eyes, quiet desperation. "Magnus," she said softly as we left the courtroom, voice trembling. "I know I hurt you. Was this really necessary?" I met her gaze, expression cold and unyielding. "You made your choices. Every choice has consequences." Tears welled in her eyes. She nodded, then walked away without another word. Months passed. The house, once thick with tension and silent resentment, now felt peaceful. I threw myself into work, closing deals and expanding my business across Europe. The sting of betrayal faded, replaced by clarity and purpose. One evening, at another charity event, I felt a gentle tap on my shoulder. Turning, I met the eyes of a woman who radiated quiet sophistication. "Mr. Adler," she said warmly. "I'm Isabel. I've heard much about your work. It's impressive." We talked for hours. Her wit and intelligence were a refreshing contrast to the shallow conversations I'd grown used to. For the first time in years I felt a spark, a reminder that life, despite its scars, still held beauty. Later that night, standing on my balcony with the city lights stretched before me, I reflected on the journey that brought me here. Betrayal had cut deep, but it forged me into something stronger. Raising my glass to the sky, I whispered my new mantra: "Pain sharpens us, strength shapes us." And with that, I stepped back inside, leaving one final thought lingering in the cool night air. Betrayal can break you, but renewal will build you anew. Thanks for watching. If you've ever faced betrayal or heartbreak, you know how hard it can be to find your way back. Magnus' journey reminds us that pain doesn't have to break us. It can make us stronger. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more real-life tales of courage and resilience. And let me know in the comments, how would you react if you were in Magnus' shoes? Until next time, stay strong and keep moving forward.